On the 30th of June, the International Monetary Fund issued a press release that caught the attention of Pakistan's economic landscape. According to the IMF, a staff-level agreement has been reached, potentially offering relief for the country's struggling economy. The agreement includes a number of economic reforms that Pakistan has committed to implement, including increasing taxes, reducing energy subsidies, privatizing state-owned enterprises, improving the business climate. While the agreement is a standby agreement, which is subject to the approval by the IMF Executive Board with its consideration expected by mid-July, many in the country say that reduced subsidies coupled with higher taxes won't bring the relief they need. This development raises an important question. Does the IMF's provision of bailouts truly benefit Pakistan, or is it a vicious cycle that perpetuates the country's dependence and struggles? Will this bailout truly help stabilize Pakistan's economy, or is it just a temporary breather providing short-term relief without addressing the underlying issues? The short answer is no, it won't. This short-term agreement with the IMF can provide temporary relief by helping Pakistan avoid a debt default. However, considering the enormity of Pakistan's financing needs, this short-term agreement offers only limited breathing space. In a matter of months, Pakistan will need to seek a longer-term arrangement with the IMF. For instance, Pakistan requires around $23 billion to address the financing gap on its external account in the current fiscal year alone. The $3 billion from the short-term arrangement will not sufficiently address this need. Furthermore, resolving Pakistan's economic challenges goes beyond relying solely on IMF funds. Structural measures and reforms are necessary to address the ongoing financial crisis in Pakistan and establish a sustainable solution. To understand the context of Pakistan's reliance on IMF bailouts, we need to examine the real issues that led the country seeking financial assistance. If we speak of country's inflation, it has piled up to 29% in June 2023 compared to its all-time highest 36% in the previous month of May. If we speak of country's foreign exchange reserves that were around $27 billion not long ago in August of 2021, after seeing a significant decline, these reserves have dropped to around $9 billion in June 2023. When examining Pakistan's foreign debt, the figures are staggering as by the end of December 2022, the country's total external debt had reached a staggering amount of approximately 17.87 trillion Pakistani rupees, equivalent to around $130 billion US. This debt places Pakistan among the nations grappling with one of the highest debt burdens globally. Adding fuel to the fire, a significant portion of this debt needs to be repaid immediately, intensifying the pressure on Pakistan's financial resources. While some individuals may tend to focus on immediate causes and perceive the inflationary situation as a recent development, it is imperative to acknowledge that the distinction between short-term and long-term causes may not be as significant as it appears. One of the most significant underlying factors is the role of the military in politics. The military has been a dominant force in Pakistani politics since the country's founding. For instance, in 1958, General Ayub Khan imposed martial law, consolidating military power and suppressing dissent for a decade. Similarly, in 1971, General Yahya Khan imposed martial law, followed by the partition of East Pakistan, which is now called Bangladesh, leading to the dismissal of the civilian government and the arrest of former Prime Minister Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who was later hanged on the charges of treason, which many believe were politically motivated. The military's influence remained strong, as seen in 1999 when General Pervez Musharraf imposed emergency and overthrew the government of Nawaz Sharif. Musharraf ruled the country for nearly a decade, during which time he further consolidated the military's power. In 2022 also, there was a notable intervention by the military in Pakistani politics, as General Bajwa removed the government of Imran Khan with the help of PDM alliance formed to overthrow the government of PTI. The military's decision to remove Khan from power demonstrated their continued dominance and influence in Pakistani politics. The military's influence in Pakistan doesn't end here. It extends to controlling the media and education systems, shaping public perceptions and stifling opposing views. This control has limited awareness of military's true impact and the negative consequences it has on the country. Journalists, activists, and politicians who have dared to criticize the military have faced intimidations, arrest, and even violence, creating an atmosphere of fear and hindering freedom of expression. The military's interference in politics has undermined democratic processes in Pakistan. By prioritizing its own interests and suppressing dissent, it has disrupted effective governance by civilian authorities, leading to political instability. Through its control of narratives and suppression of dissent, the military has maintained its power and limited public discourse in Pakistan. In addition to the military's involvement in politics, Pakistan has also been plagued by political engineering done by the military several times. This has led to a situation where the same families and parties have been in power for most of the country's history. For example, the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz and the Pakistan People's Party have ruled the country for most of the time since independence. These parties have been accused of corruption and nepotism, and they have failed to deliver on their promises to the people. These families and rulers have plagued the system in such a way that every institution and its heads have become slaves to these rulers. Every time a case is made against the culprit, no one gets justice because they are adjusted in some way or the other. The shifting of power from corrupt politicians to their children is another problem that has plagued Pakistan. This has led to a situation where a small number of families have become very wealthy while the majority of the population remains poor. Another pressing concern is the lack of education in Pakistan. The crumbling education system has left millions of children without access to quality education, perpetuating illiteracy and hindering skill development. Excessive military involvement and the compromise of the judiciary due to corrupt politicians have severely impacted access to justice in Pakistan. For decades, the ruling elite has neglected the interests of the general public, perpetuating a system of corruption and ignorance. Consequently, the youth of Pakistan, who are the future of nation, have been left disillusioned and many have sought opportunities abroad, abandoning their homeland. This toxic environment has hindered economic progress as non-compatible teams, lack of planning, and other similar issues continue to plague the country. Economists consistently highlight the detrimental effects of such practices on Pakistan's economic stability and growth. The lack of accountability and transparency in Pakistan has allowed corruption to flourish unchecked, exacerbating socio-economic inequalities and hindering overall development. This creates a harmful cycle where the interests of a privileged few takes precedence over the needs of the majority. In addition to these internal challenges, Pakistan has now been facing difficulties in securing loans and financial aid from international organizations and friendly countries. The pervasive corruption and mismanagement of funds by those in power have undermined trust and credibility, making it harder for Pakistan to receive much needed assistance. Donor nations and institutions often attach strict conditions and requirements that serve their own interests, potentially compromising the country's sovereignty. These challenges extend beyond financial assistance, impacting the global perception of Pakistan's passport. The lack of respect and recognition in the international community further limits the mobility and opportunities available to Pakistan passport holders. To overcome these multifaceted obstacles and forge a brighter future, Pakistan must undertake several key steps. First and foremost, combating corruption and promoting responsible governances are imperative. Addressing corruption and ensuring the proper use of funds will help rebuild trust among the populace and enhance Pakistan's reputation on the global stage. This necessitates fostering accountability, transparency, and the principles of good governance. Additionally, Pakistan must prioritize the establishment of a merit-based society and empower the judiciary. By promoting meritocracy and strengthening the independence of the judiciary, Pakistan can cultivate a fair and just society. This will not only contribute to effective law enforcement and combating terrorism, but also reduce the negative impact of military involvement in politics. Inclusive socio-economic development must be a primary focus. Inadequate education and socio-economic disparities contribute to the vulnerability of individuals to extremist ideologies. By prioritizing education, job creation, and implementing inclusive economic policies, Pakistan can address the underlying causes of terrorism and build a resilient society. Pakistan must implement these reforms for the long term to become self-reliant and free itself from the need for foreign debt. It is essential to generate substantial wealth from its own assets, not only to meet domestic needs but also to eliminate reliance on foreign debts. Failing to do so would result in an incomplete achievement of the goal, leading to the desperate cycle of borrowing from institutions like the IMF. This in turn would push Pakistan's foreign debts to alarming levels, potentially endangering the country's sovereignty. The consequences could be catastrophic, forcing Pakistan to compromise its sovereignty and potentially leading to the unthinkable, the risk of nuclear weapons falling into the wrong hands. The urgency and gravity of the situation demand immediate action to safeguard Pakistan's future and prevent such a terrifying outcome. By implementing these comprehensive measures, Pakistan can rebuild trust, enhance its international standings, and create an environment conducive to sustainable development, progress, and the effective countering of terrorism. Such endeavors require collective efforts from the government, judiciary, security forces, professionals, and active participations from citizens. Together, they can pave the way for a brighter and prosperous future for all Pakistanis.